Hello. I finished boy parts, and I also got some. I cannot believe I'm that dumb. I got some plants. No, just plant water everywhere. Goodbye.
Yeah, and I think it's a fair thing to have.
Yo, just picked up Amusing Ourselves to Death from the library. Very excited. Also, just turned my phone into like a makeshift dumb phone, and I think it's like a really happy medium of what I was looking for. I've used a flip phone before, and for a couple reasons it just doesn't really work. One, not having maps is like major, and then also whenever I'm at home and like have computer access, it kind of feels dumb to be using a flip phone because the only thing it's really doing is making it harder for me to talk to people, and that just kind of was having an equally bad effect on my mental health that like overusing social media did. So I didn't find that sustainable. It worked for a little bit, but like long term, it was like me just flipping my sim back and forth from like my phone to my flip phone, depending on if I was like going out or not, and just a bigger pain than it was like worth. So I'm hoping that this is like a better alternative. It's day one, so like obviously I don't know yet, but pretty excited. I am also excited to read this book. There's a lot of ideas floating around in my head right now about something that I might turn into another video essay, so I'll probably just hold off on talking about it. But there's one more book that I have on hold at the library that I'm excited to get to. Also, I think the idea of having like a deadline of like I need to finish and return the book by this date will help me kind of just start, because I've been having a kind of loose idea of what I want to talk about for a minute now and haven't done anything. So yeah, we'll see. Just hot as fuck. Pardon my language. I kind of want to go get frozen yogurt, but maybe I will go home and then go later with my mom because she is visiting right now in town, so we'll see. But yeah, anyways, bye.
Unlocked? I don't know. I locked it by accident and I closed it behind me. It was locked.
Hello. I just finished reading Acts of Desperation by Megan Nolan, and let me put my phone down. And it was it was okay. It like declines in quality though. I like fold the bottom pages to like annotate, and the entire second half is devoid of any footnotes or things that I was like, I'm gonna save that for later. It just sort of devolves into this like amalgam of, the story is this bromance. It's like a recounting of a relationship that is doomed to fail and like really toxic. just like abusive and like traumatic, and it's her just recounting who she was going into it, how it changed her, and then there's like interspersed little segments of like current day, her writing this years later, sort of reframing certain parts. And those like short parts, I can only really call them like Substack entries, because that's exactly what they read like, just these short like sort of like essay vignettes, and they're all like really like feminist slash politically charged, breaking down sort of the structures and like larger systems at play that like led her to be in that position, and also to like want the things she wanted. It anyways, so relationship wise, it's charged in a lot of different ways. It's like half grief, half guilt, and the second half for me just sort of devolves into like internet age self-destructive behavior. It's a lot of like online stalking of like exes, and like it also starts becoming a lot about like infidelity and like heavily drinking, like binge drinking, and it just stopped being relatable to me specifically, but also it just felt like something that's like been done before, although this is like very much like her own lived experience. I'm not like being like, you're just one of many. It's more of like there's a lot of like internet age novels that have unlikable main characters, and like the self-destructive internet stuff reminded me of I'm a Fan by, I think their name is Sheena Patel. I might be wrong on that though. But just like other books that I've read that have done it before. But the first half I feel like was really good. It was like uneasy, claustrophobic, obviously like romanticized initially, and then like slowly little like glimpses of like the ugliness to come like pop up, and it felt really relatable because I guess not everyone can relate, but you know, some of the experiences of like early relationships being like really unhealthy just rung true, like a lot of like the kind of typical patterns of like love bombing and like then retracting of like just like weird dynamics that play like go unspoken. I was enjoying it. I was also like repulsed by it, and not just from like her perspective, like the partner in question who is like really sullen and like unemotive and like also has like emotional issues and like stoic weird stuff, was also seeing glimpses of myself in that, and I was like, oh my god, this is so ugly to watch. Like it's just a car crash, and I was like both the victim and the driver. And yeah, I was really liking the first half until I could no longer like see myself in either of them, and I was like, whoa, this is a very personal story that I'm like no longer like enjoying as much. Although it's hard to critique something that is like very obviously made to work through like grief, guilt. There's like a whole subplot about like her relationship with her family, and her dad specifically has like this illness, so it's like prioritizing this relationship that like she knows is flawed over her family members, and like feeling guilty about the way that she's managing, blah blah blah. Read it if you want, I guess. I don't know how I feel about it. I just finished it. I did read it super fast though. I was on page 30 this morning, and I finished it. I think there was like 280 something. It's like almost 300 pages, and I read it in like 2 sittings. Like I read it this morning, and I just finished it, and it's nighttime now. But another thing I was reading is The Idiot, which I'm about halfway through. I just got to part 2, and I'm loving this so much. I'm not sure if I'll be able to put it into words, but it just has this like super dry and like absurd style that like is not overt, is not like in your face. It's like super subtle and like clever, and the like driving force of this is just this narrator who is a college freshman, and it's like the year 2000 or like late 90s, so it's like really early internet age, There's like basically only email that exists, and it's just her experience on, she's at Harvard, but like the fact that it's Harvard doesn't super matter. Like it's not like a, what is that genre called? It's not like The Secret History or whatever. It's just like she's just at college sort of thing. But a lot of like absurdity just in the classes that they take, and like the curriculum that they have just being like so specific and like stupid, and like the conversations and like love interest and just this like ununderstanding of the world, and being this like super half-formed person, just like this teenager with like bright eyes and like taking everything in, and not stopping to question like anything. Part of that is like the retrospective aspect of like being so new and like fresh-faced, whatever, that like when you stop and look back, you're like, oh, maybe like there's better ways to do blank, or like maybe this is stupid, or maybe it's like not worth whatever. But just like taking everything like as gospel is so funny. Like it reminds me of like French absurdist movies, specifically like the Hugh Lowe movies, where watching someone do something wrong and then like just being like, okay, and like thinking that that's however you do blank. The like unfoundedness of the love interest is also really funny to me, partially because it's like relatable, and it's like the driving force of the relationship just being the like abstractions and like imagination, instead of like the actual person. Comedy of errors, but also so minute, and like the plot itself is so pointless slash aimless, but the characterization that like results from that is so specific and like fully fleshed out. Like I feel so connected to Celine, the main character, because like you see how they react and like their internal monologue to these really mundane and like oddly specific situations, and I feel like it just says so much about them as a person. And like it, I don't know, I'm just like, I'm so invested. It's so good. I'm excited to have an entire second half and then a sequel to read.
Cool spot. Marhaban bisa. These red chilies. Started sleeping with me too. Try this one. So I recommend, yeah.
She likes the idea of
Yeah.
Did you ever cook that meal?
Hello. So I am on my way to pick up some film that I developed a while ago, and I have to pick it up before it blows up. But I am realizing that I didn't talk about finishing The Idiot yesterday, which I did, and I really liked that book. I wrote a little review, and I'm going to try and say something that's not just me repeating myself, but I'm kind of struggling to put it into words, why I enjoyed it, or the way it made me feel in like a succinct or like really roundabout way. But it was one of those rare experiences with the book where while I was reading it, I could tell that I liked it, It wasn't one of those like sit with it, digest, and like wow, I need to, you know, unpack that. Like I felt before with something like by Baldwin or Morrison or something, but just in the moment, every like page by page was so entertaining and endearing that I like immediately knew and I was resonating with it, and it made for a really, really fun reading experience. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would for how like loosely structured it was and kind of like plotless, because it's definitely less about what is happening and more about how it's happening or how Celine is reacting to what's happening. I thought her kind of voice and like perspective was super relatable and endearing and sweet, and definitely taps into like the teenage uncertainty. I just really enjoyed it, and I can't really think of a way to improve upon the book. I just feel like it was so singular and unique, and I loved it for what it was being. Yeah, it's like one of those things where I would have never asked for a book like that, but it was like exactly what I wanted, or I don't know, I just enjoyed it so much. It's not that like I liked being in the world, because the world is just the regular world, but I loved seeing the world through her eyes. I think Celine as a narrator was so endearing and sweet and awesome and relatable. I just really liked kind of like being with her, and also like remembering being her, because it really is like deeply relatable and sweet. Okay, now I'm picking the film. Bye. Okay, I am having a little idiot moment, like the book, not that I'm dumb, where this really like inane and stupid situation just happened, and I'm like overthinking the way I was reacting to it and relating to Celine again. I went to a Sonic and I was ordering from a stall, and this always happens, but my voice was like too like faint, and they were like, I can't understand what you're saying, and so they had to come out to the car to like take the order, and I was like, thumbs up, whatever. And then I like saw on the screen that they charged me later, and they did like the wrong thing, and I was like, I only have $9 in cash, and they charged me for something that was like over $10. So I was like, I know that's wrong, because I did the math beforehand. And then so they came out with it, and I was like, I'm so sorry, it was wrong. But like, and then they came back, and 4 different interactions happened, and between each one I was just like rehearsing what I had to say the next time. Really stupid, like trivial thing, but I don't know, that to me is like what the idiot felt like little bursts of like semantic, like bumping into each other, like both trying to go the same way, like little awkward interactions that are just like magnified and then really funny, or just like really silly or trite. Anyways, I don't know if my hand is still shaking, but I am like so over caffeinated that I was like, I need food immediately. Turns out it would take me 30 minutes to sort through the back and forth that kept happening. But yeah, anyways, as I unwind and recharge, I will talk about Boy Parts by Eliza Clark and White Teeth by Zadie Smith. Not really, because I got like 7 pages in before I felt like really overstimulated, because Boy Parts is insano crazy, and so yeah, there was just like way too much happening, too much input, and I was like, I need output immediately or I'm gonna blow up. So here is my little like virtual save point, like fairy fountain, where I'm just gonna breathe out, drink my little drink, eat my little food, and then get back to full health. Okay, so I picked up film before I went reading, and so I have some photographs. I'll pick out a couple kind of at random. This one is of this like little hiking trail back from Louisiana, my trip in July, and this was the day that I cut my hair because it was so hot that I like melted into a puddle. But it was also kind of really awkward where it was completely empty, like the entire trail hike area. The entrance was like this like community garden, which looked like this. I have like visual aids for the story, which is helpful. And then walked along this densely wooded trail and made it to this boardwalk swamp. And this is the part where I started suffering. Then the way back was just like a ton of clearings and plains. Had not seen a single person, and I was sweating so much that I basically got like kind of naked. And by that I just mean shirtless, but I was still like, I hope nobody shows up, because like, I'm sorry, y'all. But anyways, I like round a corner back to the garden at the beginning, and there are so many people, and they're doing like a wedding photo shoot, and I got so embarrassed because I'm just like rounding the corner and I'm like dripping sweat, and like just, it was not a good look. And there's just like a ton of like very like poshly dressed people just like staring at me and like, what the hell. Anyways, photos. I have some other ones. This one is of my friend, and it looks like he has like one of those like beauty filters at like photo booths. It came out so weird looking, but I have pictures of like the meals that we had, pictures of my friend's suitcase full to the brim of like snacks and treats, and then we went to like a tea garden and took pictures in front of like a waterfall type thing. But I met up with like a longtime friend I hadn't seen, and they had like a new girlfriend, and so like was meeting them for the first time. And because I had my camera, I was like, I'll take the photos. And so I have a ton of pictures because they just kept asking for them, and I was happy to oblige. Or like I felt like it would be even more awkward to say no, even though I was like, I don't want to like shoot a roll of film of y'all kissing in front of a waterfall. But I am now dreading getting my current roll developed because I know that the first 8 pictures are just that, and I'm like, I don't even want to get them printed because I'm like, is it worth like paying to have them printed when like I don't want them. Again, stupid situation. Anyways, back to the books. Boy Parts is like infectiously negative, where okay, my fault. Boy Parts is so hater coded, it's crazy, and it's also like, it's a little exhausting to be like that consistently mean / cruel, but it's like interspersed with like really dark humor, and those parts are pretty funny, although it's like cherry picking to like turn my nose at one thing and then like join in on like the laughter at another, because the person themselves, like the narrator, is like so like deluded and like self-important and like bad evil, just like mean, but like for like cruelty's sake. Like they're like in line at a bar, and like there's a group of like underage girls behind her, and she's like telling the bouncer like to card them so that they can't get in, just like ruining their night for no reason. Or like she's in the bathroom of the bar, and like the person in the next stall is like asking for toilet paper. She like says no, and then it's like internally being like, I hope she gets a UTI. Like just like weird people behavior. And all of her friends are like really like normie and like have like generic / bad taste, and so she's like pulling her nose up and like making fun of them in funny ways, because it's like some of like the in-groups that she's like making fun of are just like funny. But it's also just like insane. Like New Guy just dropped where it's like she like described the plot of like Salo, or like Salo, like the 120 Days of Sodomy, whatever, the Pasolini film, to like some stranger at a party, and like that as like a tweet, like the invent a new guy. I don't know, it's funny, but it's also like it's a little dreadful to be like that negative. Also some like heavy essay stuff just happened and so like thematically slash tonally stuff is like going really downhill and just getting like vile. Yeah, that's when I switched to White Teeth, and then White Teeth had a lot more like levity and humor like out the gate, but I don't know, it was just a lot. Like I said, I'm like over caffeinated, so I was like, I need to escape, because it was just taking a lot in. As I was reading, I started listening, or like listened a bit to the new JPEG Mafia album. I haven't listened to him in a minute, although I put on this shirt and was reminded that he just came out with an album like this week. So I listened to it and I did not like it. Like it's almost laughably bad, to the point where I'm convinced that he hates his fans and this is like punishment for them, where, you know, like the sort of like underground hip-hop audience is like insufferable, and also will like just dick ride like anything that comes out that is like supposed to be cutting edge slash experimental. And this is like insane, like the influences. Side note, I think it's funny how close him and Lil Uzi Vert have like as like stylistic influences from like the last whatever Uzi album to like this. Like Slayer, Snow Strippers is, they're like two sides of the same coin. I think it's a little silly, but there's also like heavy like 100 gecs inspo on this. One of the instrumentals is so like, it feels like an AI version of a 100 gecs song, where they will just like throw in random ass like cymbal crashes on like empty space, or like have like the most generic sound effects go off. The instrumental to, what is the song called? It's something like New Black Culture or something, or I'll look it up. It has like Vince Staples on it. It's called New Black History. Listen to that if you want to laugh today, because that shit is actually hilarious. But yeah, it just feels like a parody of himself, or maybe that's just like what you end up with when you get like that many levels of like self-reflexive going on in music. But yeah, just there's like a, I don't know, it feels like a parody or like satire, which it might be. I don't know if there's like, I'm gonna be honest, it just wasn't for me. But yeah, what I did end up listening to after that was a new to me Yo La Tengo album. I listened to, I think it's called Painful, and I liked it. There were like 3 songs that I cherry picked, like added to a playlist, because I ended up making a playlist for August, which I'm pretty excited about. It's like 7 hours long. There's a lot of songs that are new to me, or that I'm like revisiting and like really liking. So yeah, some of those songs from that album will go in there. Then I also listened, or started listening to The Sounds of Science, which is like my go-to Yo La Tengo album. Definitely my favorite, just in terms of like the amount of times I've listened to it. I really, really like it. Good for studying, good for reading, good for listening, also good for watching. Like the movie associated with it is really cool. I remember I watched it with my mom at like 7 a.m. Sometime that she was visiting, maybe like 2 months ago or something, but I watched it recently, and I've listened to it a lot more than I've watched it. Although I think that was like the 3rd time. What was I saying? Or what is there left to say? I don't know. I just feel kind of chatty and caffeinated, and that kind of makes me feel like more extroverted, or like I need to talk, just in terms of like letting things escape, like externalizing my thoughts, because they start coming in hyper speed. And normally I would just like FaceTime my friend, or you know, a friend, but it is the middle of the day and I'm like that unemployed friend on a Wednesday right now. So lucky you instead, I guess. And speaking of a FaceTime from a friend, that's the name of Nathan's last vlog, and it was also what someone commented on, I think like 2 videos ago, where I was just like talking to my bookshelf. Yeah, that was a really nice compliment. And then watching Nathan's vlog also made me realize that it does not matter what I talk about, because for the people that I follow, they could be talking about literally whatever, and I'm just like happy to have noise happening. So found that to be comforting in terms of like, I don't need to have something super profound to say or like hella interesting, but yeah, it can just be kind of like candid spurts of like whatever I was doing in the moment. The same way I'll like record a little portion of like whatever I'm looking at for like a future vlog, I can also just like record a snapshot of like what I'm thinking at the time for a current vlog. Anyways, time to have a little sonic moment this hot summer day.
It's like close to a cider. Which I think is pretty crazy because it's straight out here.
Hello, wrong hand. Oops. Hello. Quick update. I was reminded because of the library, and the last time I went, picked up a book and started talking about how I dumbed down my phone. I'm about to go back to the library. They close in like 40 minutes, so pretty soon. But I realized I never like talked about or showed my phone situation. So how is this gonna work? 1 second. Lines of text, and each one is like a shortcut, so I can click one. That's not how that works. I can click one and it'll just go to whatever thing I got going on. But I've used like a flip phone before, and the 2 biggest inconveniences were not having maps and not having iMessage. This has both, because there are like a bunch of things that make it kind of mandatory to have a smartphone, like QR code menus or online tickets at like movie theaters, or just having a map to go somewhere new, iMessage, like being sent links. Like there's so many little tiny things that pile up, and so being able to just deal with them all is really cool, and I'm liking it. So that's that. There's also a second app I'm using in conjunction called Screen Zen, and it lets you place restrictions / schedule when you can use certain apps. I have all of the apps deleted that I don't really want to be using, but it's for like the workaround of opening them through Safari like as websites, and it's like a really strict block. You can't open it like at all. So yeah, just like dumb down my phone, but like can still use it for anything I like need to in the moment. Working really well, like it. And I don't know what the tangent or like transition I thought was going to happen, but transition is today I started making a website. The transition is I've been thinking a lot about the internet in general, and like the fact that it's just going to exist forever, like for the rest of my life, and how I want to be using it for the rest of my life, more intentionally and less compulsively. And so part of that is kind of being unpleased at like the state of like major websites / social medias being like the only place that you can exist, and kind of just like rotating in between like more refined algorithm, doom scrolly, evil. I don't know, I'm just not a fan. And so having like my own personal thing that I can like manage and interact with super freely, it's really cool. I just made like a 3 sort of like page loop, where there's like different tabs and they all kind of lead back to the same home, and I want to fill it with like a bunch of individual pages relevant to whatever the tab is. So music, photography, drawings, books, and movies. Last 2 would be cool to like have reviews or like thoughts on blank exist like on here, instead of like on like the big social media platforms that are like owned by whatever conglomerate, like Goodreads, Amazon, or like Meta, Facebook, whatever, Instagram. It'd just be cool to like have it be private, I guess. So this one just leads to like one like DJ mix thing I made like a year ago, that I uploaded to SoundCloud, and maybe I'll do more of that, or maybe I'll just like compile songs / playlists. And the big one is photography. I want to start like dating and kind of collecting little relevant stories, like context surrounding specific. These are all like the digital like scans of rolls of film I've gotten back. A lot of them are like nested, so like there'll be 2 in one. For like the Japan trip, there's like 6 in one. I have maybe like 15 rolls of film that I haven't like gone through, organized, or like shared, and having that many is a little overwhelming. So being able to go and just like cherry pick specific ones that I like and share them in like a more private, less like loud way, and share some of like the context text wise, just seems like a really good sort of alternative or like way to chip away at it, like a long-term project. I'm really excited for the idea of these being like full to the brim, and right now they're not, but I just made it today, so something to keep on at. I'm not going to share it because of how like unfinished it is, but yeah, it's something to look forward to, I guess. I don't know if I mentioned it already, but I have to go to the library to pick up another book. Yo. I just picked it up. The book is heavy as fuck, apparently. Pardon my language, but it's called Addiction by Design, and I heard about it through a video essay that I really liked, that was about like the psychology of like slot machines, and just like addiction in general. And it was only very briefly cited, but there was like an interview with someone who was addicted, and the way that they described their relationship to wanting to keep playing, I found really like chilling. And also the more that I watched the video, the more I felt myself connect parallels to something that I'd just been thinking about in general, which was like the whole phone situation. I'd been like wanting to use it less for like months leading up to what I just showed. And so then I was like looking up like literature, and I found the other book I'd already showed, like Amusing Ourselves to Death, because a friend I was talking to cited it kind of like in our conversation. And so then I was like, those 2 books in conjunction would be really cool to understand kind of the facets of how our phones and like algorithms being designed to be as addictive as possible kind of plays into like a larger sense of addiction to our cell phones, not only like to the apps themselves, but the third book that I've read, I'm already kind of getting too into it, but Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport was like the first of the first that kind of shed a light on the way that the kind of internet at large was designed and kind of morphed into being more immediate and addictive and sensory and infinite. And I think all those 3 books could be cool in conjunction because they're all kind of talking about things individually, and so kind of connecting the dots. I want to have read all 3 of them. I've already read the Newport, but yeah, I just want to read the other 2, see how they combine, because this book is a lot about slot machines, and the subtitles like machine gambling in Las Vegas. Talks a lot about casino design as well, in addition to like the first-hand accounts of gambling addicts who like fell victim to those designs and practices. And I think, fingers crossed, that I could find a way to like bridge the gap of all 3, like how the design of like modern algorithms is the same as the kind of not subliminal, but like subconscious designs that are put in place in casinos to keep you from thinking, to keep you like kind of walking in circles, unaware of the time or how much money / attention, in this case, you've spent on them just little like pervasive ways that I think we're all kind of feeling and expressing in different ways. But I think everyone or anyone who uses social media regularly has some experience with like doom scrolling or something of that ilk. Anyways. Getting so sweaty. It's like I showered.
I study.
Hello again. So hard at work. I put together 3 whole pages today. I know. Doesn't sound like much, but I think it's pretty cool. It also works now. That was a big issue, is that I've never coded before or like made a website. So trying to like learn HTML, it's not hard, but it also was really frustrating when I didn't understand what was going wrong. The posts I did are just sort of like backlog recreations of my Instagram, because I think it'd be cool to use this maybe less / not at all, and I would feel bad like losing a lot of these pictures because I don't have them like backed up anywhere. And so I kind of just went through and found some highlights, I guess, things that I would want to like keep or like store, and they're going to be under a bunch of like umbrella categories. So like here are like a bunch of the glove pictures that I took in Japan, and I really like that. So I have it on a website now, and I just want to do that for the things I care about. I also want to do it for like concert pictures, and then also pictures of home cooked meals. I have a bunch of pictures that I haven't posted. I don't know when the last well, it's only been like a month and some change, so not too shabby. But I know I haven't posted film photos for maybe like 9 months, and that's the one that kind of is itching at me more. But yeah, instead of being like, oh, I have to post to Instagram or else no one will see them and they won't exist and I won't be able to catalog / collect them. Psych, you thought. I have to put them on my website now. So that'll be cool once everything is like put together and there's just like mass scrollable collections of pictures of home cooked meals and gloves and train colors and heart-shaped things and I don't know what else. Another thing that I kind of started today, not really, I want to make a second / third / fourth like mix music thing, like this one that I did a while ago, because I actually already have a lot of them. So today I made like another sort of like mix. This one is more like industrial post-punk stuff I've been listening to. I think it'd be cool. And I also have, what are they called? They're called like One Day something. I made multiple of them from April, so like well over a year ago, almost like a year and a half. These are a bit longer. This one was more like electronic and like IDM music, and then this one was, I don't know, like alternative, more like guitar, singy stuff. But I also cut those big ones into like hour-long chunks, and I never did anything with them, even though they're like already kind of like curated. I think I have one more in 168. But yeah, they're just here, sitting here. Never did anything with them. I kind of just made them and was like, yeah, eventually I'll do that. Never did. So I want to make these two, like 167, can't see, 167, 168, and then I want to make mix 3, the one I made today, and then I could have a bunch that are, you know, just kind of sitting there waiting to be made. This one looks kind of lonely all on its own, but yeah, I also just finished what's that book called? Boy Parts by Eliza Clark today. So okay, so boy parts was what I wanted it to be for the most part, which was like an entertaining contemporary novel, which felt fun and self-aware. It definitely leans into some like body horror and like really unlikable characterization towards the end that kind of gives like a similar issue with like all the others of like if I don't like anything that's happening or any of the people, why am I reading this? Like the morbid curiosity being like the only driving factor. Although the form itself is fun until it isn't. There's like this sort of like Safdie Brothers-esque like chaotic amount of voices happening at once where like the narrative will be interrupted by text messages from characters that were just interacted with or like wronged or etc etc, and so like the constant sort of like chirping and like buzzing like my phone just did, just people like reinserting themselves into the story when you want to like have as much distance as possible from like someone who like just super essay abused the main character or like their friend who like cannot take a hint or like this like tertiary whatever character. It reminds me of like the Safdie brothers comparison of the opening of Good Time, when this is like a specific part, but when they go to the bank to try and get a loan and it's like about to close, and then the person who's like doing the loan has to like call their mom because their card froze, and then like 3 different conversations are happening at the same time, and it's just like whatever you tune into is equally as like bad, so like your brain just starts like shaking. It's kind of like that's being attempted, although it falls apart at the end once the kind of tension slash stakes don't make any sense anymore. There's like a really intense and violent event that happens. I'm not going to spoil the narrative that's going on, but something really bad happens, and then immediately following that nothing changes in terms of like really trite and kind of like airy faux conversations happening with like another set of characters, and it's like not giving what just occurred like any weight, and also like just the continuing as normal. It's just kind of it's off-putting, and I don't know, it like takes the weight of the tension out, where like if there's not going to be any consequences, like what's the point of what are we bracing for, or like what is the tension going towards if like we're just going to plot armor, get away with everything, and like there's never going to be a moment where we like sit and like digest what's going on. Anyways, it definitely shifts from like being like how will she stick the landing to very evocative and gruesome body horror stuff, kind of being the only thing going on, and it does it well. There's like hallucination type stuff or like unreliable narration, which really adds to not understanding what is going on and feeling like unsafe in every setting, because you can't tell what is actually happening versus like what is the worst case scenario that's like being kind of like manifested externally. It was fun, although it got really gruesome, and I almost didn't finish it. I only did because there were like 20 pages left when like things start climaxing, but it almost reminded me of The Sluts by Dennis Cooper, I think his name is, where it was just like way too much for me, and I was just questioning like what am I gonna get out of this, and like is it worth putting myself through this exact scene, because leading up to it, like I said, like the tension sort of felt pointless, or I was like, oh, this actually isn't gonna like land the way I want it to, or, like it's not going in the direction that I expected, so like are my expectations going to be met at the very end? Is this going to be worth it? I was toying with the idea of just like not reading the ending. I did. It was fine, but it definitely takes a turn and just like escalates immediately and like really suddenly, and yeah, accelerates just like into a brick wall and then ends. Hopefully that wasn't too vague or too specific. I don't think that any of that was a spoiler. But yeah, liked it for what it was. Finished it. I'm glad it's over. I don't know what I'll read next. I read like maybe 30 pages of White Teeth, but that book is it's a little long. It's like 400 something pages, and I was feeling all this like big book energy, and Boy Parts was not short. It was like 250 pages, so it was like right in like a sweet spot where like now I'm like, could I do a 400 page book, or like maybe, I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, done with it. Probably won't think about it super often. Yeah, I don't know. It was cool. What am I gonna read next? I want to read the first of the Neapolitan Quartet really bad, by Elena Ferrante, my brilliant friend. I just watched Noor's video, and they mention the quartet again and also the series, and I'm like, oh my god, I feel so left out. We'll see. We will see. I don't know, I'm not feeling super inspired at my bookshelf at the moment. I've been kind of leaning into the library and slash Kindle and like cherry picking things that I want to be reading, but I don't know. Also kind of want to read more David Foster Wallace, because he kind of also plays into that like essay thing I'm working through. I think he has like a really nice ethos and kind of like mentality when it comes to criticizing media. Something, I mean, he was very famous for, like his critique of television, but also just of like cynicism and irony, and I feel like that's only been like exponentially more commonplace. So I kind of want to read from like essay collections to see if like he has like a specific quote or like way, like phrasing of that idea basically that will like succinctly help what I'm trying to say. So yeah, I might be dipping my toes back in for like a third time. I've been like reading him in super short bursts. But yeah, he's really interesting, and the more I read, the more I feel like he's been heavily like mischaracterized, because he is just really earnest, and like his inclination and like appreciation of sincerity is a welcome addition to my life right now. Anyways, my fault. I'm like eating lunch, but having some thoughts. Wanted to just share them if I can. I feel a little scattered, but a little like side effect of trying to work through boredom is that I wrote for the first time in years. It's happened twice now where whenever I'm like just, you know, undistracted, not doing anything, I've started like building like poems in my head. Usually it just starts by just thinking thoughts and then like gamifying it, where like incrementally like I'll like teeter back and forth, like replacing words until it like sounds better, and then from there just like building up like to a next line, and then from there I'm just like writing in my head. But today I put it on a page because it happened again when I woke up, and it was pretty cool. I started off trying to do like a poem, and it started turning more like fictive. I wrote like 3-ish pages, but yeah, the further I got, the kind of bigger the scope got, and then it also stopped being about like specific wording and like tone or like intonation, and more just like trying to convey this idea that I had, which I guess I dreamt about. I'm not really sure where it's like stemming from, but it's really fun, and I already like can think of better ways to rewrite it or like even expand upon it, and I kind of I'm like itching to do that already. and turn it into like a short story or something, maybe. Probably definitely just for myself. But yesterday night I went to sleep reading short stories, and then today I woke up and picked this up. I hold the wolf by the ears, and I'm only like 10 pages in, but just now that I've like just now I wrote whatever that was, and now that I'm like thinking about specific wordings and like ways to convey anything. Someone's calling me, hold it. Okay. Then I'm like trying to think about like writing in general. I'm like really engaged with the way that this is written, and just kind of like in like a meta sense, like seeing how they're writing, which, you know, I've appreciated writing in books before, but this feels different to me. Like I feel really, I don't know, sensitive right now, like creatively, maybe. I'm not sure, but it's a really cool feeling. Just kind of wanted to document it, I guess, which is kind of what the thing I wrote was about. I don't know, I feel like I need to find new ways of output, because I have like a bunch of ideas floating around in my head right now, and so like getting them out in like an abstracted way felt helpful. Like I feel pretty calm at the moment, eating lunch and about to work out, but anyways, the story poem thing was about gymnasiums for some reason. Well, not for some reason. This morning I read like the first page of the Handmaid's Tale, or Handmaid's Tale, the Margaret Atwood book, and like the first paragraph says something about like sweat-stained linoleum, and then from there like I was like, oh, that's a good sentence, and then I started like building a poem out of that, and then like went to the next line, and it turned into, I don't know, this like fictive short story thing about someone watching a time lapse of the inside of a gymnasium, and like people filing in and out, and how kind of silly and like semantic it all was, that like they would just run from end to end or like jump in place, but then like pausing to kind of like imbue each moment with like a weight and a reverence to whatever person A was going through, whether it's like the weird like idiosyncratic gym teacher who was recently divorced and finds joy in like drinking a Dr. Pepper every single morning, which I'm like pulling from my real life there, but it's just so bizarre like how much happens inside gyms, like the hierarchy of like who's cool and who's not based on what socks you're wearing, like the Nike Elite sort of like era. I think it's funny to look back on, or like the sexual charge and like the locker rooms and like retreating into yourself, or like fleeting moments of eye contact, and like just how much weight there was in there, or like how many like nosebleeds or like chipped teeth or like random altercations, and how the gym as like a space is just like filled and emptied ad nauseum, like 8 times a day forever. And like even though whatever graduating class is like leaving, it just keeps going, like the video, the time lapse like never ends. And so it's kind of about the person watching it getting like overwhelmed at how much life exists and why we record it in the first place, and then it starts like abstracting into why anything is being made, which I think is kind of just to prove that we existed in like a futile, like endearing way. So yeah, it starts as like just exploring the spaces, like buildings, museums, gyms, and like how repetitive and like constant there's like a stream of really profound events happening, like how many first dates or like conversations or crushes, or the gym even like being like repurposed for like dances and assemblies, and whatever. But yeah, there's just so much life happening constantly, and it's a little overwhelming. Anyways, yeah, I kind of already want to like reword how I wrote it literally, and see if I can turn it into something interesting or not. I don't know, but reading this and just kind of thinking about the form of short stories, it's interesting. Quite like it. I think I also just like writing, and have been too like stimulated to sit down and act on that. I've like been too content with just like consuming it that I felt no need to output it. But now that I'm feeling like intense waves of boredom and not just like pacifying it through being on my phone and turning my brain off, for now, it's something. Anyways, that's all. I have a lot of projects and outlets that I need to just start kind of like to-do list, crossing them out one by one. I'm gonna make this video, just wrap it up, and then from there I'll have website, essay, personal writing, reading. I have like political ambitions with my friend and just in the city I live in. And we'll see what else exists, or what I feel like sharing or recording, and why I want to record it, because I exist. Okay, bye y'all.